we're at. Once again, we're going to be starting at starting back at the section of the history of medicine. That is right under. Section of the history of medicine by Dr. Norman Moore in the document that's page. Oh yeah. Page 7.
Section of the history of medicine.
Alright, so once again, peace and blessings. All praises be unto the Most High Almighty Yeshua, our Lord and Savior. It's the Essene Community Church of Christ, Brother Shamar.
My name is Brother Tabak.
We'll be bringing forth today's Sabbath report / lesson, where we'll be continuing on from last week. All right, last week we went into this lesson here called pandemic diseases. All right, fumigation / incense smoke as disinfectant. And we went into the understanding that smoke was a representation of the Most High's divinity given to Adam. All right. And that it was also given to him for consolation. All right. Which is alleviation, comfort, all of those things that is attached to incense. Not only cannabis, but all incenses from the scents and things have different things that it does for the mind from smelling. All right. And also in taking it, as we went through the history to show that in pandemics, all right, all the way even before pandemics from the Bible, the Most High told Aaron, Moses to disinfect with this. In plague times, when the Most High was angry and there was a plague, um, that Egyptians used this, and we went to early Christians that used this. All right. Then we also went into some medical records that said the same. All right, and it spoke about the need for purifying the air because that's where disease they understood was coming from. All right. And that's what came with the fumigation. The reason why the Most High told them to cleanse the temple. All right. So in the times of fumigation now, in the times of pandemics in history, recorded history that we went through, they were burning herbs. Not, any type of herbs, all type of herbs they were burning. All right. So it wasn't set to one specific type of herbs. All herbs was known to have medicinal properties from being burned. All right, so we're going to go and finish part 2 today. We're just going to reiterate that. All right, and they showed that the same way that the temple needed to be cleansed in and the homes in pandemic times by herbal smoke, they showed that intaking it also internally needed to be done. And this was the only way to cleanse from such diseases that are in the air. All right, so we're going to go more into depth today, and we're going to go back to that part and reiterate on that part there of the internal intaking of smoke, herbal smoke, to cure diseases. All right, especially during pandemic times. All right, so we're at the section of the history of medicine.
All right, section of the history of medicine. President Dr. Norman Moore. Some plagues, tractates, 14th and 15th century by Dorothy Wally Singer. So part C, I guess. Disinfection. Our author's turns next to rules for the practice of disinfection, as we may call it. In cold or misty weather, he bids us shut the windows and purify the air within by means
Yeah.
Part C, disinfection. Our author turns next to rules for the practice of disinfection, as we may call it. In cold or misty weather, he bids us shut the windows and purify the air within the means of fires of juniper branches, so that the heat and smoke may pervade the room.
All right, so disinfection. All right, shows that. All right, the author here showing for the practice of disinfection. All right, in cold or misty weather. So this is coming up right now. All right, he bids us to shut windows. All right, so to shut your windows. Why are they telling you to shut the windows? Because air is coming through the windows. All right, so if anything's outside, pandemic, influenza, cold, people understood that this is coming through the breeze, through the air. All right, shut the windows, and he bids us, all right, to purify the air within by means of fire. And they have juniper branches here. And we're going to go into what juniper is. All right, but that was one of the ways, so that the heat and the smoke may pervade the room. It could be in the room, in the whole room. All right, doesn't say caution, take your children out either. Okay, so continue for us.
Or better still, a powder for which the recipe is given should be scattered on live coals as a deodorizer, and the resulting smoke inhaled through mouth and nostrils.
All right, so it says, or better yet still, a powder for the recipe is given should be scattered on live coals as a deodorizer. All right, so that would be like how they had it on the altar. The altar, the one that they had live coals on there. They put the herb on there, and then everyone's wondering, what did they do with it? Did they just stay in the room with it? Did it just go blow in the air? Did it just go? No. All right, we're seeing here that people understood that you can come and you can smoke it and you can put it in your mouth and your nose. All right, you could do all of those things. That's what people were doing with it and understood it as. All right, and this is juniper branches. People are not even here to give somebody that right now. They wouldn't even think you could do that. All right, and we're talking about cannabis. All right, which also we showed that in the scriptures it was known as calamus. All right, and we went into the Hebrew to show that it was cannabism and Sarabenatoa from 1936. An etymologist revealed that it's a Scythian word that traces back to Hebrew, and it was for cannabism. All right, and showed that every word has to have an etymology and an origin, and cannabis didn't have one, and she traced it down, and she's seen that it was connected directly to cannabism. And the Scythians, they're up in Iranian parts right there, and they said that they were connected with the Hebrews, and that's how they were able to have their the word inside of their language. All right, so the herb was to be burned and inhaled in the nostrils and the mouth. All right, continue.
The doctrine of miasma.
All right, that says miasma. It was an error there. It's actually miasma. So I went in there and I looked up that. So it's miasma with an M to M instead. All right, and we're going to actually go into that understanding of what miasma is. And this is actually interesting. All right, but the doctrine of miasma. All right, continue.
The doctrine of miasma implied by the procedure has had as long a history as any in medicine.
All right, so it has a long history of medicine as any. So this doctrine of miasma, we're actually going to go into it later in the lesson here, is actually the understanding that disease came through the air, that this is where it came through. All right, and that through the airwaves, it was able to get inside of you, and this is how the way disease was spread, because you're breathing in air. This is constant. All right. This constant filtration is going through here. You need something to purify that. All that lungs, everything is, all the particles is going up in there. So that was the understanding that ran from all the way from the beginning of time up until the early 1900s. All right. From up until the early 1900s. And we're going to see what transpired. All right. But continue there.
It may be traced back through Hippocrates to the magic and folk medicine of primitive peoples, and it has come through the dark and Middle Ages right down to our own time, when old wives still imagine that the sick room is rendered more healthy by the burning of disinfectant ribbons. The concept probably reached medieval Europe through Constantine. The allusions of classical writings to the use of fire to extinguish plague can hardly have been available to John and Burgundy. Thucydides did these, however, whose work were unknown in the Middle Ages, is quoted on this subject by Galen, and in one of the anonymous tracts of the Great Salernitan Codex at Breslau. Fires are recommended in houses in damp or marshy positions, while the Flos Medicinae contains a specific warning against bad air in the neighborhood of drains.
All right, so they were warning about houses in damp, marshy positions, so places that are swampy and things, that air over there, are places like that. They were warning about air over there, and also in we call neighborhoods, all right, which had bad air and from the neighborhood drains. All right, so all of these things they understood was disease spreading. All right. This is what they understood, that if you're able to smell this thing, that this thing was actually in the air and it was toxic because you're able to smell it. That's what the smell is telling you. All right. Continue.
Drugs. But disinfection of the air was not enough.
All right. So let's pay attention to this. Disinfection of the air is not enough. So some people would be like, you know what? Maybe I just burn it outside. All right, this is letting you know that disinfection of the air is still not enough just to disinfect in the air purely and solely. All right, continue.
The pores of the skin were regarded by most medieval writers as the main channel of entry of the pestilential poison.
All right, so the pores of the skin were regarded by most medieval writers as the main channel of entry. All right, the pores of the skin was considered the main channel of entry. All right, for pestilential poisons. All right, pandemic poisons. All right, so we're not hearing this when we're hearing about corona and things of that nature. No one's telling you or warning you about the pores. Everyone's covering up the mouth and this and that. But what's going on with the rest of the body? All right, and this is what the understanding was showing, that in pandemic times, there's no way that you can just cover your mouth or this, and you have to purify the air, and you also have to purify the body, as we're going to see. All right, continue.
It is therefore necessary to take internal disinfectants to destroy any virulent vapors that had penetrated into the body and are now perhaps circulating the humors. For this purpose, aromatic remedies should be taken internally, and a large number of these are suggested.
All right. So it shows you, all right, it is therefore necessary to take internal disinfectants. All right. All right. This is 1916. All right. March 15th. All right. Before the hippies, before the 70s, where, people think that we're almost cool and things of that nature. All right. They're letting you know that internal disinfectants, all right, were needed to destroy any virulent vapors that had penetrated the body and now perhaps circulating the humors. All right. For this purpose, aromatic remedies should be taken internally, and a large number of these are suggested. All right. So this is what it's showing you here, that people understood that herbs was a disinfectant, that you couldn't just disinfect in the air, as we've been saying from a long time with the incense, that once you're seeing, this is the thing about understanding the law of nature and the spiritual understanding of the law, and needing to see it without seeing the words. All right, because this is what we're saying before the words are saying this, based on seeing how the Most High is dealing with it in the temple. It's overshadowing everything. If he's telling you to disinfect in the temple, and the temple is the body, and he's bringing it inside the temple and smoking it up, it was showing us that this is a disinfectant inside the body. And there's no way this smoke in any form, shape, or form can harm you. All right. There's no way. Because why would the Most High then put it in the temple? And then where would be the instructions to take the children out or take these people out? Make sure no one's inside of there. All these little particulars. All right. There was any. So it's showing you. All right. The only way they understood to take away virulent vapors was that penetrated the body and now perhaps circulating in the humors was to take aromatic remedies internally. All right. And a large number, they're saying, is suggested. All right. So not just one, not just large number. All right. Different aromatic herbs, anything you call incense. All right. Continue.
It is good thing to carry in the handa pomum ambre, that is a mass of aromatic drugs made up with resin or amber.
All right. So it's an important thing to carry. All right. Handa pomum ambre, that is a mass of aromatic drugs made up with resin or amber. So it's telling you that it's good to carry on you. All right. A mass, not a little, you know what I mean? A mass amount of gum, resin, or amber. All right, different resins and ambers. All right, now there's all different types of resins. All right, we're not just honing down and saying one type of resin. All right, we're telling people that myrrh resin is good, frankincense. If you go look it up, people show you that they cure with frankincense. A lot of people are addicted to commercial cigarettes and stuff. They smoke the frankincense and they're able to get over the addiction and things of that nature. So a lot of these people never thought that they could take and inhale, but people do and still are doing it. All right, not just cannabis, not just you know um, cannabis gum resin, as we're going to see. All right, but they show you a mass amount of aromatic drugs. All right, of resin or amber. All right, should be on you. All right, for these disease purposes. All right, for disinfectant. All right, this is why we call it incense fumigation, to show people from a long time that this is a disinfectant. Hmm? Okay. Okay. Yeah, it is a good thing to carry in the hand. Pomam amber. Okay, that makes sense. The document had it running on.
So I guess it dissolves in your hand and kind of just seeps into your system, right? Can you keep it in your hand? Is that what I'm saying?
I guess your hands get sweaty, right? When you have
Your hand gets sweaty, it melts in your hand, right? And it goes through the system.
But made up of resin or not.
All right, continue. Yeah, finish it up.
All these measures are commonplaces of medieval plague literature and must have proved the source of enormous profits to the apothecaries.
All right. All right, so it says all these measures are commonplaces of medieval plague literature. So anything you're going to deal back with Egypt, all these places in ancient time, this is what they understood. And we're going to see that it just in recent times, people have changed their understanding of where disease is coming from. All right, and we're going to see that no longer herb and herb smoke is looked at as dealing with disease. That is looked at as evil. And we're going to see that a switcheroo has happened. Something else has been looked at as good. All right.
The vaccine.
Okay. So we're going to go to the Encyclopedia of Britannica definition of incense. Water there. Did I kick it somewhere? Oh, it's behind me.
Encyclopedia Britannica definition of incense. Incense. The perfume brackets fumigation arising from certain resins and gum resins, barks, woods, dried flowers, fruits, and seeds when burnt, and also the substances so burnt.
All right, so incense, the perfume, all right, brackets fumigation, all right, end of brackets, arising from certain resins and gum resins, barks, woods, dried flowers, fruits, and seeds when burnt, and also the substances so burnt. So this is all what goes around incense, all right? Not just dried herbs, okay? But we have a list of things here, all right? Barks, all right? Came out a long time ago telling people about red willow bark, that the native Indians used red willow bark to deal with treaties and all of these things that had healing properties. And this was off the red willow tree, the red willow bark tree, all right? And the leaves are red, and it kind of slightly resembles, right? Not kind of slightly, it does resemble the cannabis leaves if you go look it up, all right? But things of that nature, all right? Barks people use as well, all right? Woods, dried flowers, fruits, all right? So sometimes people have parents and stuff, and you ever had your parents that you took an orange peel, you know, they fried, it's just something, and, you know, they had to purify the home and take the smell out real quick. Our parents used the fruit skins and things of that nature. All right, that's a very old school style. All right. And also substances so burnt. All right. Continue for us.
In its literal meaning, the word incense is one with the word perfume, the aroma given off with the smoke. of any odoriferous substance when burnt.
All right. So the literal meaning of the word incense is one with the word perfume. All right. So fumigation and the sterilization and all of that with incense is one with the smell of incense. All right. We know which one reigns supreme when it comes to incense and smell. All right. We're going to see that the smelling it is giving you the understanding that it's working and it's in the air. That's why the smell is there to give you that comfort. All right, because you can't see these things. You're only operating off smell now because this is invisible. The smell is letting you know that it's taking up the room and it's in the room. All right, so that's why when you have a little bud on you, you're like, oh, people are always like, oh, this is taking up the whole room. All right, because this is what it was supposed to do. This one on everyone is going to be the strongest one. All right, because this smell, anything that's in the room, it'll take away the smell right away. All right. So we see that incense and perfume are one. All right. And we know a lot of people hate that, especially the herb smoke. A lot of people identify as hating the smoke. All right. When you see people outside, when they smell it in the hallway, when they do this, it's something of, and this is what this world does. All right. Call good evil, evil good. All right. This constantly happens. All right. So now the smoke and the smell and the pungency, people don't understand it and they're actually against it now. All right. They're like, oh, I don't want that smoke around me. I don't want the smoke. I don't want to smell the smoke. You didn't want to see it around any place. All right. Continue for us.
But in use, while the meaning of the word perfume has been extended so as to include everything sweet in smell, from smoking incense to the invisible fresh fragrance of fruits and exquisite scent of flowers, that of the word incense in all the languages of modern Europe in which it occurs has, by an opposite process of limitation, been gradually restricted almost exclusively to frankincense.
All right. So here we're going to see now. All right. So it has been extended so as to include everything sweet in smell, from smoking incense to the invisible fresh fragrance of fruits and exquisite scents of flower. All right. So also smoking incense. They have the smoking incense there. To the invisible fresh fragrance of fruits, exquisite scent of flowers. The word incense in all languages of modern Europe in which it occurs has, by an opposite process of limitation, been gradually restricted almost exclusively to frankincense. All right, so people, as long as the history started to go down the line, they started to limit what incense was, and now only frankincense was starting to be known as incense. All right, when they're talking about all incenses. All right, this is why right now, if you ask people about incense, the first thing they'll tell you is frankincense, because it has incense in there too. Okay, like frankincense. All right, but this is not the only incense. All right. There's many incenses. All right, continue for us.
Frankincense has always been obtainable in Europe in greater quantity than any other of the aromatics imported from the East. It has therefore gradually come to be the only incense used in the religious rite and domestic fumigations of many countries of the West, and at last to be properly regarded as the only true or genuine, example frank, incense.
All right, so this is what they're showing you, that because it was in Europe, that was the only one to be obtained, and that's the only one, the one that they can get access to the most. All right, that was what they were using the most. All right, and this is because they're the leading people of the world or whatever. It became known to this incense indeed known as frankincense. All right, or frankincense and myrrh, people understand. All right, a lot of people mix the frankincense and myrrh. All right, but that is not the only one. That's not the limitations. The history of it shows that it's a wide array of herbs and different things, even going back from the Bible. All right, so we're gonna go to the holy incense.
The holy incense. The Lord said to Moses, I am going to come to you in a dense cloud. Exodus chapter 19, verse 9. In recent years, scholars have expressed the opinion that from far being a minor or occasional ingredient, hashish was the main ingredient of the incense burnt in temples during the religious ceremonies of antiquity, and was also routinely used in Hebrew ceremonies until the reign of King Josiah in 621 BC, when its use was suddenly suppressed in the Hebrew tradition. Brackets Andrews 1997, Bennett 1995.
All right. So it shows you in recent years, scholars have expressed, you know what, let me put the, source here. I'll put it in the chat.
You want me to read this?
Yeah. That's the source that it came from.
What do you want? You want me to read this?
Yeah, that's that's a document. We're gonna go back and read it over. We're gonna source it properly.
Okay, so this is from the abridged theological discussion, historical information by Reverend Dr. Chris Bennett, contemporary information by Reverend Dr. Damuzi Spring, edited and abridged by Reverend Dr. Damuzi Spring. So you want me to read it again?
Yeah.
The holy incense. The Lord said to Moses, I am going to come to you in a dense cloud. Cited Exodus chapter 19, verse 9. In recent years, scholars have expressed the opinion that far from being a minor or occasional ingredient, hashish was the main ingredient of the incense burned in temples during the religious ceremonies of antiquity, and was also routinely used in Hebrew ceremonies until the reign of King Josiah in 621 BC, when its use was suddenly suppressed in the Hebrew tradition.
All right. So in recent years, scholars, all right, showing you, all right, express the opinion far from being a minor or occasional ingredient. All right. So it was far from being a minor or occasional ingredient. All right. It showed you that hashish was the main ingredient of the incense burned in the temples during religious ceremonies of antiquity, and was routinely used in Hebrew ceremonies until the reign of King Josiah in 621 BC, when it was suddenly suppressed in Hebrew tradition. All right, what happened in 621 BC there again? Josiah.
Yeah, that's when he did a wide sweep throughout all from Judah to he all through all the tribes. He made a unification of them again,
Mhm.
and then the massive Passover.
I guess because the priest would do the same thing.
Yeah, so he's the one who burnt the priest the prophecy. Oh man, you have to go back. It was a prophecy. He was prophesied to come and burn all the temples of Israel
Mhm.
and all the priests and all the bones of all, because they and would basically destroy their temple.
Mhm.
Because there's the separation of the two kingdoms.
Mhm.
So he walked through all of them and destroyed all of them, and burnt everything.
So this is what we would see. The Most High is not happy. He gave them something, and we see that what he says now, when you're using in your wickedness and all of that, becomes an abomination to him. Now we see he take it from them. All right, we see a lot of things was taken from Israel during what was going on with them.
And remember, Israel was using that for Balaam, right? So that was part of the destruction of them. And he was prophesied by a prophet by name to come, by name. How they say in the Bible there's only a few men who have been named.
Yeah.
He was one who was named to come.
Okay.
All right, so his job was basically set in stone.
Set in stone to come and deal with the priests who were operating right. All right, and we're gonna see that it disappeared here. We're gonna see we have where it disappeared. We have it disappeared now during the time of King Josiah. He came to clean up the Israelites, and we're gonna see when it reappears and who it reappears from and where that understanding is coming from. And we're gonna see that the Most High takes it, things from the wicked that's for the righteous, and he preserves it. And we're gonna see at a time he brings it back and gives it unto the righteous. All right. So we have that time there. King Josiah at 621 BC, they said its use was suddenly suppressed in the Hebrew tradition. All right. Using it incorrectly, priesthood not operating right. The Most High takes these holy things, the thing that Adam asked for outside of the garden, same thing he commanded Aaron and Moses to burn morning and evening. All right. So continue for us.
In Die Flora the Juden, Emmanuel Lowe researched the ancient Hebrew technique for making Passover incense and concluded that it must have included cannabis as a prime ingredient.
All right. So ancient Hebrew, Emmanuel Lowe, all right, researched the ancient Hebrew technique for making Passover incense and concluded that it must have included cannabis as a prime ingredient. And it shows that Lowe was from 1926 there to 1967. All right, so he's of old age. This is a long time ago.
Before the hype.
All right, before all the hype, before all of that, before, the modern day stuff that we're seeing now. Continue for us.
Regardless of the ingredients of the incense, the burning of it would have released psychoactive cannabis compounds when lit upon the altar of incense, which was drenched in anointing oil as directed in Exodus chapter 30, verse 22 to 28. 3 uses: the anointing oil to anoint the table and all its articles, the lampstand and its accessories, the altar of incense, the altar of burnt offering, and all its utensils. No. The clouded temple, pitched in a tent during the Exodus, was undoubtedly filled with the smoke of burning cannabis oil, and was the meeting place of priests of God. In Exodus chapter 30, verse 27, God gives clear instruction to place the altar of incense before the veil that is by the ark of testimony, before the mercy seat that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee.
All right. So going back to this whole thing, all right, it showed you that the altar of incense was drenched in the anointing oil, all right, as directed in Exodus 30, 22 to 28. All right. that the anoint the table and its articles, the lamps, everything was anointed with the anointing oil. All right. On top of that, all right, the clouded temple, it says, all right, not the temple was what? Clouded. Temple was clouded. All right. I know some people might not want to like that or hear that, but God's temple was clouded. All right. So your temple should be cloudy. All right. All right. But the clouded temple pitched in a tent during the Exodus. All right. So there was a clouded temple. That's where the Most High was at. All right. It says undoubtedly filled with smoke of burning cannabis oil. All right. It was undoubtedly the tent of testimony. All right. And was the meeting place of the priests and God. This is where God and the priests met. Okay. This is where they met. We're going to see.
Cloud.
In Exodus 30, in Exodus 30 and 27, God gives clear instructions to place the altar of incense before the veil that is by the ark of testimony, before the mercy seat that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. So he placed that altar of incense right where he said he's going to meet with you. All right. So he's going to meet with us at that point in the temple. All right. This is what it's saying here. All right. And you're going to see it. We're not going to go through it this time. Maybe, next time. But we're going to see that the Most High had the temple there. You know what? Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. He had the incense, the temple there, and he had Israel looking at the temple. Need to go into the lesser. Second, I want to get this scripture. It's going to hone down on the point here. Me? Yeah, no. They were in they were moving in. You came to see them in the temple. Hold on.
Is it what is it about?
They were it's a tent of testimony. The and they were in the Most High was showing them the congregation. Those were, can't explain how it is, but he was showing them the congregation, the temple with the smoke, and Israel wasn't able to go to that temple. Give me 1 second. Let me look through this.
Basically, we're saying that for the priests.
Okay, Numbers 9. Hold on. Hold on. I think I got it.
Oh, there.
1 second. If it's not here, I'll just come back to it. All right, we'll move on from it. I'll get it back after. All right, I'll look for it during. All right. We'll go back here. Where were we now?
Where he will meet with thee.
All right. So we're back in the document there. And we're going to finish it up. All right, continue for us.
It was from behind this veil of smoke that Moses interpreted the words of the Lord. According to the Lord's decrees, the incense was to burn perpetually. In 1967, Hebrew scholar Ralph Pate pointed out that Yahweh traveled in a cloud, which was produced from copious incense smoke, or copious incense smoke. The epithet, quote, rider in the clouds refers to Yahweh in one of the Psalms. In fact, the desert sanctuary was called the tabernacle.
All right, and they have, they understand that the Most High's name is Yahweh. We know it and understand it from Exodus 3:14. That is, I am. All right, which is Ahia. All right, that's what they understood in the Old Testament. All right, and we now understand it that now that Yeshua has come on, the earth and died and resurrected. All right, the Most High's name through Yeshua Christ is Ahia, Yeshua Christ, but more importantly, Yeshua. All right, so, all right, so it showed you that incense was to be burned perpetually. All right, it was to always be burnt. All right, and the Most High was traveling in a cloud. They always understood that the Most High was in the cloud. He's in the clouds. All right. Even when people say, where you're going to go up, you're going to go up in the clouds. Where's God? He's up in the clouds. Everybody understands that.
That's why Lucifer has the cloud now.
He's up in the cloud. You see, he's using that symbol and stuff now. All right, continue for us.
In fact, the desert sanctuary was called the tabernacle because of the divine cloud that abode over it and in it. In Exodus 40, it is written that God's presence in the tabernacle was indicated by a cloud, which both seemed to hover over the tent and to fill it, and which at night glowed like fire.
All right, so the Most High was understood to be in the cloud and to be filled with it. All right, and that he was in that fire in the night. All right, and this is why he was guiding them with the cloud by day, fire by night. He was always showing them that I'm in the cloud and the fire, the two. He's showing them these two significant things, but people are just not catching on. But continue.
As Moses would enter the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance while the Lord spoke with Moses. Whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance to the tent, they all stood and worshipped, each at the entrance to his tent. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. Exodus chapter 33, verse 7 to 11. God says to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Cited by Exodus chapter 3, verse 14. Such were the words Moses first heard after his initiation into the Midianite priesthood during his first encounter with the burning bush.
All right. So to show you here, that Moses at the tent of meeting. All right. All right. So we're gonna go. I found it. Perfect. It's in Exodus 33 and 7. We're going to go to the tent of meeting. We're going to look at exactly what transpired here. Because there's something that's happening here with the children of Israel that no one's catching it. So we're going to go to Exodus 33. No, in the scriptures. 33 and 7.
Exodus chapter 33, verse 7. And Moses took the tabernacle and pitched it without the camp, afar off from the camp, and called it the tabernacle of the congregation.
All right, so Moses took the tabernacle and pitched it without the camp, afar off from the camp. So the camp is one place. Moses took a tabernacle and pitched it far off from the camp and called this one, that's the camp is over here, one's far off. We call this one the tabernacle of congregation. All right, continue.
And it came to pass that everyone which sought the Lord went out unto the tabernacle of the congregation, which was without the camp.
All right, so we have them in camp. Children of Israel is encamped one place. Moses is showing them something. He sets up tabernacle outside of there. We're going to call it tabernacle of the congregation. They're not the congregation. This is the camp. All right. Moses sets up something, says this is a tabernacle congregation. Everybody that sought the Most High. So not everybody sought the Most High. Everyone that sought, Moses brought them over to the tabernacle of congregation. All right. We're going to see here. All right. Continue.
Verse 8. And it came to pass when Moses went out unto the tabernacle that all the people rose up and stood every man at his tent door and looked after Moses until he was gone into the tabernacle. And it came to pass as Moses entered into the tabernacle, the cloudy pillar descended and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and the Lord talked with Moses.
All right, so I want to see you first of all here that this tabernacle is the same tabernacle Moses is leading people, sneaking people into that, seeking the Lord. All right. Moses and those people are inside of there. All right. They're seeing the Most High talk to Moses. All right. And they're not understanding it. We're going to see that. You're going to have the camp, the children of Israel, seeing the person who's dealing with the Most High, talking to the Most High. And they're getting directly talking to the Most High in the cloud, in the camp, and the rest of them is looking far off. All right. We're going to see that this is a separation that the Most High is showing, that Moses is showing. All right. Continue.
And all the people saw the cloudy pillar stand at the tabernacle door, and all the people rose up and worshipped, every man in his tent door. And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend. And he turned again into the camp. But his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, departed not out of the tabernacle. And Moses said unto the Lord, See, thou sayest unto me, Bring up this people, and thou hast not let me know whom thou wilt send with me. Yet thou hast said, I know thee by name, and thou hast also found grace in my sight.
All right, so we're going to stop there. So we're going to go back there. All right, so it came to pass that Moses entered into the tabernacle. The cloudy pillar descended and stood at the tabernacle door and talked with Moses. So we're going back to what happened here. All right, we have a tabernacle that was set up. Let's not forget that this tabernacle that was set up outside of the camp, and he called this tabernacle the tabernacle of the congregation. Anyone that sought the Lord, Moses brought them. They didn't know Moses brought them over to this tabernacle. And we know that this is secretly because people, when they see something happen, then they follow. So we know that it was done sneakily. Those who were seeking the Most High, Moses understood, he brought them to this tabernacle. They're inside the tabernacle.
This incident is after a major event that happened. This was them worshiping of the calf. So this is when the separating the people from, because there was good and bad people that went along with them, right? So this is what's going on right here. So I just want to, just so people know what was going on prior to that, while the separation happened, right?
Yeah. So right after the calf, and we'll see, they need to be purified. They need to be purified.
We came down with the initiate tablets, and no one could understand it, so we had to come back with the.
All right. So we're seeing here that those who sought the Most High, first of all, the Most High was dealing with Moses, who's dealing with the Most High through the cloud. All right. So we're going to tell you that if anybody thinks most of these lessons are coming through the cloud, through the understanding of herbs and all of these things under the influence. Okay. Okay. Constantly. Okay. And Moses is dealing with them. Anyone who sought the Most High, Moses brought them to where he was in the tabernacle, and they were able to now hear the Most High and him deal with them face to face. So everybody else is witnessing and watching from the outside. They don't see it. All right. But this is the secret understanding and initiation. They understood that, the Most High is in the cloud. He's in this. The congregation that's around the cloud is separated from the camp of Israel. All right. Only those that sought the Most High was able to go in that tent with the cloud and see and hear Moses speak to the Most High face to face. All right.
This is the only one people that looked for him. The other ones that didn't.
And that's what we have here. We have
just that simple. You're looking for me, you come listen. Wow. It made it a little difficult instead of leaving it in the camp because you wouldn't have that thought to go look searching for him.
So we see here that the Most High showing us that there's a separation that happened in the camp. And those that were seeking the Most High, they got separated and they're dealing with the temple and the cloud. And the others in the camp, they're not dealing with the temple and the cloud. All right, this is what we have to understand. That the Most High is dealing with the smoke. He's dealing with that one. That's what comes. The first thing, the understanding the Most High switch when we came over was the change from alcohol into the incense. Okay, this is the first major changes that happened. Where a lot of people couldn't understand at that time what was, but this is what the Most High brought to the understanding. All right. And funny, I'm wearing the shirt infinite possibilities because at that time people didn't think it was possible that you could ever go in the Bible and prove herbs, weed, anything like that. Okay, for broke it open and said, no, herbs is in the scriptures. You have to think higher. You have to think metaphorically. You have to understand. And then this word incense here, all right, which you don't see anybody trying to expound on or bring the understanding to because of the understanding. It's been demonized, all right. They're not really seeking truth. And here we see the Most High dealing with a congregation. Moses setting up a tabernacle outside of the camp. And those who sought the Most High went into this tabernacle that was filled with the cloud where the Most High was talking to Moses.
So people that are like, get the herb away from them, like the way it smells, those are probably the ones that hearts are hardened.
All right, so we're going to go back to the document. All right, try to finish up as much as we can.
All right. Exodus chapter 24, verse 15 to 18, and Numbers chapter 7, verse 8 to 9, I think. I don't think that's 89. Also makes reference to Moses.
No, it's 89.
Okay. Salakia. Numbers chapter 7, verse 89 also makes reference to Moses meeting with God, who comes to speak with Moses in the cloud-drenched tent of meeting.
All right. So he spoke to Moses at the cloud-drenched tent of meeting, which we all went and seen, which those who sought the Most High was able to come into that tabernacle with him.
I
Yes.
have a question.
Mhm.
That is Yeshua name, right?
Pardon me?
Moses' name, Yeshua.
Yes. That's who's there. It's not the Most High. It's always the Word of God. All right. That was operating and coming. All right. If you go back and read that book of Adam and
In the
Eve.
Old Testament.
In the Old Testament, all of that. It was always Christ that was there speaking. All right. People just don't understand that. All right. So we're going to go now to what is juniper real quick. So they ran through the juniper. We're going to go now and see what is this juniper that was being burnt prior in the earlier document there on the section of the history of medicine. They kept talking about, and from last week, they kept talking about juniper. And I didn't go into what actually that was. All right. So just wanted to touch on that real quick. So, right, what is juniper?
What is juniper? The use of juniper as a directive was believed to be able to cleanse the fevers and tropical diseases that the Dutch settlers were suffering from in our newly colonized West Indies. Many of today's brands such as Chartreuse and Benedictine were born in the monasteries of Europe, designed as stomach tonics and general elixirs.
All right. So the use of juniper was used as a diuretic, which is show that for peeing and stuff. All right, for your urine. All right, it was believed to cleanse the fevers of tropical diseases. All right, Dutch settlers were suffering from in the West Indies. All right, so it was used for many things. All right, we're going to go into more about the juniper. Continue.
Junipers vary in size and shape from tall trees, 20 to 40 meters tall, to columnar or low spreading shrubs with long trailing branches. They are evergreen with needle-like and or scale-like leaves.
All right, so they're evergreen. All right, so these are evergreen trees. So the evergreen leaves, we went into the evergreen the other day. All right, that the process the Most High is bringing through is kind of like the coniferous seeds and things of that nature, where it needs fire for germination. And now we're seeing that the evergreen tree, the leaves and stuff, is a heavy healer. All right, people were using it for healing, the burning of it, the tea, all of these things from the evergreen.
That's how today I went to go get brother sage, and they had evergreen stuff rolled up to burn too.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get that next time.
It's just the same thing that you just said. Junipers are coniferous trees and shrubs.
Everything probably off that tree. Everything, bark, everything.
All right. So coniferous, once again, good for us. All right, evergreen, and we went into that the other day. All right, continue for us.
Junipers are coniferous trees and shrubs in the genus Junipers of the cypress family Cupressaceae.
All right, that's the scientific name there. So excuse the pronunciation. Continue.
Depending on taxonomic viewpoint, between 50 and 67 species of junipers are widely distributed throughout the northern hemisphere, from the Arctic south to tropical Africa, from Iraq, Pakistan, east to eastern Tibet in the Old World, and in the mountains of Central America. The highest known juniper forest occurs at an altitude of 16,000 feet in southeastern Tibet and the northern Himalayas, creating one of the highest tree lines on Earth.
All right. So it says the highest known juniper forest occurs at the altitude of 16,000. All right, they're in Tibet and the Himalayas, all right, in Pakistan, and all of these places. All right. So the juniper tree, the evergreen trees, they're very healing. All right. People are using them to smoke as well. That's what we were reading about in the first section of history of medicine there, that they're saying the juniper leaves smoke and inhale it and take it in as well. All right. So we're gonna go to a next part now. All right, we're gonna go and show you the understanding that the old world had up until recent times before it was changed. All right, that all diseases are spread by the air. All right, and this was a common Christian thought. This is what Christians understood. So we're even going past Hebrews, because people be like, you know what, we're not dealing with the Hebrews now. We want to at least see what the Christians are saying. This is now in Christian thought, all right, that this was the understanding that they had, that diseases spread through the air. All right, that's what comes when you're in the temple and all of that. You can see the Most High talking about wiping things down and doing this. You see him talking about using the oil for the anointing, the herbs. All right, and then we see them talk about the smoke. All right, this was the most important things. All right. Now, when you're talking about wiping things and cleaning things, just wiping the surfaces off, and that's something different. But when we're talking about disease control, this was the form of disease control that the Most High was using in the temple. All right.
When did they get demonized by the Christian then? Because the Romans still do it. I don't know if they use the same incense that we use, right? But Roman Catholics still do it. They always wear their church and
They have that thing that we swing.
Yeah. So I'm like, when did they get demonized by the Christians?
Yeah. We're gonna go. It's coming right up. All right. All right. So we're gonna see when it got demonized, all that happened, but we're gonna see that they still understood one thing. All right. So we're gonna go into.
All right. All diseases are spread by air.
No, that's just my title.
Incense and fragrances from house to church. A study of the introduction of incense in the early Byzantine Christian churches.
All right. I think that's Byzantine. They call it. Byzantine Christian churches. All right. So the book that we're going into is Incense and Fragrances from House to Church. All right. So this is Incense and Fragrances from House to Church. All right. A study of the introduction of incense in early Byzantine Christian churches. All right. So this is actual Christian document book dating back from way back that's dealing with incense and things of that nature. All right. And fragrances. All right. And the early church understanding. Let's continue. All right. We're in a particular excerpt out of it. All right.
1. Air properties and perfumed medicines. Ancient people had a very strong sense of the influence of natural elements on their life. They paid attention to their environment because they strongly believed that it was the key to their well-being.
All right. So the ancient people had a very strong sense of influence of the natural elements. All right. So they understood natural elements in their life. All right.
See, all the indigenous people are being killed off. Pygmies, natives, like that knowledge they want, man.
All right. It says they paid attention to their environment because they strongly believed that it was the key to their well-being. All right. Continue.
This was particularly true of the air that surrounded them. The novelist Heliodorus explains that there is no way to protect ourselves from the influence of the air we breathe because it penetrates into us. We are completely enveloped in air, which permeates our bodies. Permeates our bodies by way of our eyes, nose, respiratory tract, and other channels, bringing with it, as it enters, various properties from outside, thus endangering in those who take it an effect corresponding to the properties it introduces. Being composed of such fine particles, it penetrates to his bones, to his very marrow.
All right. So it shows here. All right. This was particularly true of the air that surrounded them. All right. The novelist Heliodorus explains that there's no way to protect ourselves from the influence of the air we breathe. All right. So there's no way to protect yourselves from the influence of the air you breathe. All right. Because it penetrates into you. All right. There's no way to protect yourself from the air you breathe because it penetrates into you, as we see it.
You're constantly in it.
Constantly in it.
Of course.
Your pores, your lungs, your eyes. Okay, it's all around you. All right. So whatever's in the air is all up in your whole body and your being immediately.
Even
All right.
Even if you have a gas.
Even if you have, it's going into your pores. It's going into all of these things.
Nuclear
That's the only way to prevent it.
or space suits where they go. Well,
All right.
Air Force.
So if there was something outside, you have to be in that, or you need to be purifying yourself within. All right. So it penetrates into it. It says we are completely enveloped in air, which permeates our bodies by the way of our eyes. So it goes into your eyes, your nose, your respiratory system. All right. Your respiratory tract and other channels, bringing it with them as it enters various properties from outside. All right. So all these properties that are outside mingled in, it's bringing in with it. All right. Thus endangering those who take it in an effect corresponding to the properties it introduces. All right. And it shows you that the particles, which are fine, penetrate to the bones, to the very marrow. So this, when it's going into your skin through all of this, is going all the way soaking into your bone.
So you gotta die. Basically, you gotta do it.
All right.
Those are the chemicals. No, that's not what you need to constantly burn it.
All right. Burning the air, burning the thing, closing the windows down. It says, especially in the cold times, because cold time, why? The air is moving more in the cold weather. The air is moving everywhere with the wind and all of that. It's going all over the place.
Lung fibers.
All right. So that's all of that's coming in through that. So this is where they knew and understood that most of diseases, flus, all of these things were spreading from. Therefore, inside the home, temple, purified herbs, incense. Inside the body, purified temple, incense. All right. Continue for us.
The properties of the air, and particularly its odors, were therefore carefully watched. A common lore attributed malevolent powers to foul odors, as they were commonly believed to be the cause of diseases.
All right. So the properties of the air and the odors, all right, were carefully watched. All right. So they carefully watched the properties of the air and the odors that was there. All right. The common lore was about foul odors. All right. The powers of foul odors, as they were commonly believed to be the cause of diseases. So people understood that odors is the cause of disease, because that means something is in the air. Okay, now this now is permeating all up into your thing, all up into everywhere. You know, when people understand that when to come out, you ever been in a place and they're eating and you call a cleaner goes off or something, you're like, oh my Moses, then you have to get out because your mouth, everything, it's all up in you now.
That happened to me. Yes, I was riding my bike on Bay Street, and they do construction in a bridge underneath. I went under there, and this chemical thing, I'm like, what are they putting under there? I was like, I couldn't breathe. That's why I fart clears the room. We know how to run from it. Like, it clears the room for a reason. Ain't no one time there chilling. Everyone gone.
Instinctively, you want to run.
You're done.
All right, so they understood this to be the cause of diseases. All right, continue for us.
They were not only disliked for their unpleasantness, but they were also held to be dangerous. Galen mentions the danger involved in entering a house where the air was putrid.
All right, so it shows you, all right, that they were held to be dangerous. All right, that there was danger entering a house where the air was putrid, where you smell a foul smell. All right, that meant something's in here, something's in the air. Now, guess what? It's all up in your tract. It's all up in your disc, your eyeball, your pores, everything. Okay.
We get pink eye for that.
All right. Continue.
The Hippocratic tradition believed that the corruption of the air was the only source of disease and refused to accept the idea of contamination by contact with a sick with a sick person.
All right. So the Hippocratic tradition, always leading up, all right, was the understanding that disease only spread by the air.
So the Hippocratic oath is from them.
Mhm. From who?
The medical.
Yeah.
Medical doctor. That's for the medical doctors.
But I'm
But
saying, like, the
The same
time to
word he's
them.
talking about, the Hippocratic.
does it tie into who? The Bible?
No.
The Hippocratic oath, right? Like,
Okay, yeah. It's from Hippocrates.
One of the
Yeah.
same, right?
It's one of the
from
doctors.
the medical field.
Yeah.
From the medical field. The first oath, though, came from Asaph, all right, which was a prophet there. That was dealing with the Most High. We went into that in a lesson there, the sacred herbs.
Today's medicine,
All right.
with the oath,
And the Most High gave him the oath, the first oath, and there was a whole bunch of things that the Most High told him about. Once you're going to be revealed the secrets of medicine to be able to use it good, because you could use it for other things and things of that nature. So the first oath was from Asaph, then it came down, and then we seen it into the Hippocratic oath here.
Look what
And that's
happens when
okay
medicine
there.
gets hijacked, though, man.
All right. So they understood that and believed that corruption of the air was the only source of disease. Now we're in the Bible, and the Most High, there's a plague, there's this going on. We went and showed, the Most High didn't say, oh, Mike saw this down, do this, do that. Moses, Aaron, they said, yo, hurry up, get the incense.
Put it on altar.
Okay? Get the
Chemicals ain't
incense.
good. Like the antibacteria, that kills everything. You need good and bad. I mean, you need good. It kills both.
All right, continue for us.
The treaty on breaths attributes the origin of all illnesses, including epilepsy, the sacred illness, to the air one breathed. Epidemic fever as this characteristic because all men inhale the same wind. When a similar wind has mingled with all bodies in a similar way, the fevers too prove to be similar.
All right, so the attributes, all right, the treaty on breath attributes the origin of all illnesses, all right, including epilepsy, sacred illness, to the air one breathed. All right, so this understanding was that all diseases, everything was attributed to the air that one breathed. All right, that epidemic fever, all right, pandemic fever, epidemic, all right, has the characteristic because all men inhale the same wind. When a similar wind has mingled with all bodies in a similar way, the fevers too proved to be similar. This is what they understood, that it was spreading because you're outside and you're in a park and the same wind blew and breezed past all of you. Therefore, everyone now getting the same thing.
Or if you're working in like a slaughterhouse or something, you know what I mean? Working around rotten flesh, your life span really short and quick.
All right, so they didn't have the understanding that it spread through what they call it, bacteria. And we're going to see that that is actually new in the 1900s, that understanding that disease comes from that way. And it's still not an understanding that they have because they're not curing anything. They're not doing, they're just killing things and trying to create vaccines. And we're going to see that vaccine is like what the brother was showing. It's just something that's killing everything, good and bad bacteria. So because they're saying, oh, you don't want any of these families to come onto you because it possibly could arise into a disease. All right, so this is the theory behind that. Whereas the other theory, they had understood that your body's exposed to air and all the things in the air is constantly being in your respiratory system and all of these things. And it's the air that needs to be purified, most importantly. All right. And we have the Bible that backs that theory up. All right. So continue for us.
So whenever the air has been infected with such pollution as are hostile to the human race, the men fall sick. Diseases made the air malevolent to people, explains Lucretius.
All right. So it shows you here, all right, that whenever the air has been infected with such pollution as are hostile to the human race, the men fall sick. So it's whenever the air has been polluted, all right, men were falling sick because of the air. all right, that was being polluted. This was the understanding that was from Bible times up into medieval times, up until the Egyptian times, even up until recent times, just changed now in the early 1900s. All right. We'll continue for us.
Christians of the 4th century shared this point of view with the non-Christian members of society. If they lived in a pestilential atmosphere, they were bound to fall ill for certain. For Christians, too, sickness rolled in with the winds. They too believed that foul air endangered their health. Everything that smelled badly was deemed potentially dangerous as well as disagreeable. Lucretius even believed that there was a tree whose stinking flowers could kill passers-by.
All right. So there is even a tree that stinked. All
So
right.
bad. What part you gone?
All right. Now we even have fruits and some things like that. Like people have the durian fruit. Like when they smell it, they're like, "Oh man, that fruit smells. Smells horrible." All right. All right. So Christians of the 4th century shared this point of view with non-Christian members of society. So this was a Christian understanding and non-Christian understanding. All right. That if you lived in an atmosphere that had pestilential presence, that you would fall sick. All right. That you would become ill. All right. That the air needed to be purified with herbs constantly. Now this has gone away. Now when someone sees you purifying with herbs, someone constantly, they're like, "Oh, what's going on? What's happening? Why are you purifying with so much herbs? Why you know what I mean?
Why is there so much smoke in here?
Yeah. All right. This is the understanding we have now. All right. So Christians too understood that sickness rolled in with the winds. All right. And that foul air, once again, foul air endangered your health. All right. So smelling something bad is a danger to your health. All right. Mm-hmm. And everything that smelled bad was deemed dangerous as well as disagreeable. All right. Continue for us.
Naturally, nothing frightened the people of the ancient world more than the terrible smell of rotten, corrupted matter. There was a real horror and fear of dead bodies. For anything that is decomposing has an evil odor, notes Theophrastus.
All right. So nothing frightened the people of the ancient world more than the terrible smell of rotten, corrupted matter. All right. And it shows you there was a real horror and fear of dead bodies. And we see how the Most High treated dead bodies. Now, inside of the temple now, going back to Isaiah 1, all right, and 11 there, we understood that the Most High seen them. They were bringing a lot of dead bodies in the temple. All right. A lot of flesh was in there. Reason why did he need? Every morning he had them coming in, purifying the air, oiling things down.
Okay, so that was a counteraction to all of the sacrifices.
All of the stuff, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Going on in there.
Human dead bodies or animal dead bodies?
Well,
Dead bodies, anything
a
rotten.
body dead, it doesn't matter.
Anything rotten.
Doesn't matter. Why would they bring it into
That's what's
the
the matter.
No, remember, they're
Sacrifice.
sacrificing. How are you going to eat the
Remember how much
flesh?
sacrifices you get?
No. I'm saying the animals. Yes. No.
No, but it's turned human. What's going on here? You have to take what human beings.
They were sacrificing their children at some point.
Yeah, they did. They
Yeah,
sacrificed their bodies to children.
That was for that. They took no blue.
All right. So this is why the Most High is like, yo, you need to purify this morning, evening, constantly. Why? Because, they're rolling in and sacrificing dead bodies in there. Air needs to be purified. All of these things has to go on. All right. This lets us know then, too, who needs to be smoking the most.
The people who were doing that job.
Doing that job were people who eat flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's going on in the temple. That's what you needed. Now, if you have rotten things inside of you, there's air inside of you, there's these things inside of you. This is now ringing off now. Now you're going to need more smoke now. All right.
That's why the Most High was like, why are you bringing these dead animals? Stop.
Okay.
You're not getting. Like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
telling them not to.
Mhm.
Is he telling them not to bring the animals?
Yeah, well, he doesn't want the sacrifice. He didn't need that sacrifice. Right.
The sacrifices
Because
because
that's bad.
it was them who initiated that.
Mhm.
How do you want?
Stay on point.
Con, we'll continue for us.
Fumigation by strong and powerful substances could help conceal this stench.
All right, so fumigation by strong and powerful substances could help conceal this stench. Now we have cannabis, okay? Right away, any stench that's in your room, once that's in the room,
It beats it all.
all right, now it's pungent and smelly. Why? Because it's bringing you, now if you understand that smells and stuff is important, you now know that you need a pungent herb to combat this now. All right, so this is why this herb now and the smell now, everyone talks about the smell. This is the main thing that they talk about with it. All right, the smell.
They call them terpenes.
All right, terpenes. All right, the smell of it, very pungent. This is why everyone loves to come to it. Yes, once this is in the room, you know this is somewhere. It could be way down. You don't even know where this is.
And the sap.
All right, it's very strong.
The sap is very strong in that plant. It's just so much oil, and
Mhm.
even me cooking,
Mhm.
I get the shatter. And you
Mhm.
smell that? It's like a big shatter. I'm gonna bring some, and it stinks. Yeah.
And this is why it's called cannabism. This is why it has the name and not other ones, because it is the most pungent out of all of them. So if anyone just smells aromatic, they call it aromatic cane, any one of them is going to have that name. It would be that one. That's why they call it the leader. It's the leader when it comes to smelling. All right. It's the leader of that.
Is that any good or bad smell? Any pungency or good like what's in like agreeable scent?
What do you
I'm
speak
saying
about?
that word
Mhm.
is talking about the pungency period,
Mhm.
good or bad, or the designating a good or
No,
bad.
good, aromatic.
So for
Yes,
good pungency.
yes, good
Aromatic,
pungent.
not
Yes,
bad.
yes, not
If
bad.
it's like
Yes.
I thought it was for strong. You know what I mean? For strong.
No. Aromatic means it smells good as well. All right. Now, some people don't like it, but usually people don't like the smell because they already have a connotation about it. All right.
It's associated with
Yeah,
bad.
it was
evil.
associated with
Yeah.
that. So when you smell it, that's what the thoughts is coming in with it. All right. Whereas other people who like it, they're like, this smells good. They know what this is. You know, anyone who deals with it loves the smell. If you don't like it, then the smell is letting you know this is close, it's around danger. They're like, oh my God, something could be happening. A lot of people, I mean, see people close their nose, their mouth, and all that. Oh, they're smoking herbs, they're smoking weed. All right. We'll continue for us.
Incense was burnt and perfumes exposed to the air while lamps and candles were lighted around the dead body lying in state. Survivors of a deceased person would purify the house of the dead by burning incense and hoped to create thus a wall of smoke between death and themselves.
All right. And we see that a lot of times, even in Caribbean places, that when somebody died or when they come into a new home, they at least understand to burn frankincense, myrrh, do those little things, seal up the home real quick. All right. Now we see people using a lot of the sage now. All right. Continue.
By surrounding themselves with perfumes, they hoped to overcome the power of foul air. From the aerial theory of the spread of diseases and from the sickness bearing power accorded to foul smell followed the crucial need to drive dangerous odors away by replacing them with agreeable scents that had the same aerial mobility. Spices and fragrant herbs were believed to have curated powers partly because they were able to push away the deadly stench. As the Babylonian Talmud puts it, the spices are to remove the bad smell.
All right. So we see here, all right, that they use these things for dead bodies once again, heavily for dead bodies, and they're always lighting the place with herb smoke, candles, many things to keep the place smelling good. All right. And it shows that by surrounding themselves with perfumes, they hope to overcome the powerful foul air. All right. The aerial theory of the spread of disease and from the sickness bearing power, according to foul smell, followed the need to have the dangerous odors purified. All right. The dangerous odors purified by good smelling aromatic herbs. all right, and scents that had the same aerial mobility. So this is why they're showing you the smell is moving bad. You need a herb with the same moving thing. Now, the one with the most movement and smell known to people is always going to be cannabis. All right, so this is what they understood, that the smell of the herbs eliminates the thing quickly, and they needed it to be strong. Now, cannabis is known for that. That's the reason why that herb name is sweet aromatic cane. All right, this is what it's known as.
It doesn't even have to be burnt.
All right, doesn't have
Just
to
having
even
it
be
on
burnt. All right, so continue for us.
Fragrances were therefore Fragrances were therefore granted powers in the same way the foul odors were. They could penetrate the body since they mingled with the air or with liquids. Their primary use was to counteract the malevolent effect of bad smell, first as a preventive measure and then as a medicine.
All right, so the fragrances were therefore granted powers, all right, the same way foul odors are. They could penetrate the body since they mingled with the air and with liquids. All right, so these smells and things could penetrate the body, and this is what they understood. The smoke and all of that penetrated the body and combated the bad smells and the bad toxic things and the diseases in the air. All right, continue for us.
This is why they were used as an antidote to the odor of death and the corruption of flesh, as an almost universal ingredient in the cure of illnesses, and finally as a protective substance in everyday life.
All right, so they were an antidote to the odor of death and the corruption of flesh. Going back to what was happening in the temple, the flesh was being killed in the temple. Reason why God said, first of all, if we're gonna have one altar here, guess what altar I have to have here? All right, the incense altar. It has to be here because things are rotting. Now, even if you're not eating flesh, things are still rotting in you, all right? Which is the food and all of those things as well.
That has to be a big place of it's packing up, right? If everyone's coming to sacrifice, the bodies are piling up. So
thousands upon thousands, yes.
Yeah, that's more hellish.
All right, continue for us.
These ideas were not new, as Athenius reports. Don't you know that the sensations of our brain are soothed by sweet odors and cured besides, even as Alexis says in Lovern Lass, a highly important element of health is to put good odors to the brain.
Oh, okay, a highly good thing for an element of health is to put good odors to the brain, all right? They tell you, incense to the brain, all right? Herb for the mind and the brain, okay? All right, so this was a huge thing here, all right? That the sensations of your brain are soothed by sweet odors and cured, all right? And this was a preventative and cure. So to prevent it, you need to smoke it. To cure it, you need the same thing, all right? This is what had to happen, all right? And they understood that the brain and the mind operates off smells. This is why a lot of people go to places and they like to smell stuff. They have smell therapy. Even right now, people have the candles, they have the oil, the aromatherapy, all right? This is real things here, that the aromas and smells trigger things in your mind and your body. All right?
Lights too.
Continue for us.
From the Greek medical tradition and folklore, they were also imported to Rome. When a plague struck Rome in Commodus's time, his doctors advised him to leave Rome to go to a tiny place called Laurentium. The doctors thought this place was safe because it was reputed to be immune from infectious diseases in the atmosphere by virtue of the redolent fragrances of the laurels and the pleasant shade of the trees.
All right. So there was a plague. All right. There's a place in Rome. All right. When a plague struck in Rome in Commodus' time, his doctors advised him to leave Rome and to go to a tiny place called Laurentium. The doctors thought this place was safe because it was reputed to be immune from infectious diseases in the atmosphere by virtue of the redolent fragrances of the laurels and the pleasant shades of the trees. So this place was thought to be healing and curing because the trees there and the herbs there smelled, and it had a nice, beautiful smell. So when disease came, they ran to this area because they understood this area had a high purification of the air because of the smell that was there. All right. So this was the understanding that they had. Now, we had cannabis fields and things of that nature. All right. They took that out. These fields have the smell too. And now they're taking these out. They took these out. All right. But it showed you that there's trees and things outside that even the smells for purification too.
How they're explaining the smell,
Mhm.
I was like, that has to be taken out.
Mm-hmm.
That makes that lived in my head right off the bat.
All right. Continue for us.
The inhabitants of the city followed the doctor's orders too, by filling their nostrils and ears with sweet scented perfume and making constant use of incense and aromatic herbs. Some said that if sweet smelling scent filled the sensory passages first, it stopped them from inhaling the polluted air.
All right. So it said the inhabitants of the city followed the doctor's orders. They filled their nostrils, their ears with sweet scented perfume, making constant use of incense and the aromatic herbs. All right. The sweet smelling scent filled the sensory passages. All right. And they believed that it stopped them from inhaling the polluted air. So you having the incense inside of there, they believe it stopped them from the polluting air. All right. From coming inside of the body. Continue.
If an infection were to get in, they said the scent drove it out by its greater potency. During both the early and the later Roman Empire, Christians shared this idea that good odors could counteract the spread of illnesses and even cure them. 3rd century Clement of Alexandria, for example, admits that fragrances are healthy, particularly for the brain. He recommends placing perfumes on the nose to cure common colds or rubbing one's feet with perfumed cream in order to warm them and draw blood away from the head.
All right. So they showed you. All right. This is Clement of Alexandria. All right. That Christians understood good odors counteracted the spread of illnesses and cured them. All right. Clement of Alexandria said that fragrances are healthy, particularly for the brain. Once again, people always talk about herb and for the brain and the mind. This is true. All right. These things are true. All right. That these things are healthy for the brain, and that even to combat colds and things of that nature, they're telling you to put scents on your noses and things like even when you're using Vicks. What do you think Vicks is in these things? These are heavy scents on you, all right? To clear up your nose real quick.
And then Reefer Madness,
Mm-hmm.
they were saying it made you go crazy,
Mm-hmm.
smoking it, smelling shit. And that's what ended up getting it demonized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Legal up. And then illegal from that.
Mm-hmm. It's just crazy.
What went the other way?
Rosemary enhances your memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they tell you to put these oils and stuff. You have a cold or something, it's telling you to attack the airwaves. It's telling you rub it under your foot bottom, your hands, these major places where this could get inside.
Yeah.
All right, your nose passages. These places, when you have a cold, people are like, right away. You go and you get something, it's going to rub on your nose. This is a fake thing that's doing the pungent smell and everything. Because you're like, oh, yeah, I feel so soothed now immediately.
That's true. Because when I went and cut my feet detox, the water was clear. Just put my feet in the water. It looked like somebody peed in the water. And it was all brown stuff and there was black bits. I'm like, what are those? Did you put pepper in there? She goes, no, those are heavy metals coming out of your foot. And she said, yeah, that's why when you rub essential oils on your feet, it goes into your hair. I was like, no way. Yeah. Wow. So this is totally confirmed what she's telling me.
All right. So continue for us.
He believes perfumes can cure headaches and improve the mood. He eventually concludes that perfumed ointments are excellent for one's health and perfumes should be used as a medicine.
All right, so perfume should be used as medicine. I don't even think people use perfumes as medicines. I think they don't understand where disease is coming
I
from.
was like,
So now you don't connect perfume and medicine together. 'Cause now that will bring you back to herbs and smoking herbs, and they don't want that. All right, but continue.
In his mind, this was their raison d'être. It's French. When used for seduction or display, they were misused and should be shunned by Christians. Fragrant spices and gum resins were clearly not neutral products. They were deemed powerful and belonged to both the world of medicine and the world of folk remedies. Apuleius describes frankincense, cassia, and myrrh as medicines in his Apologia. Indeed, any book of medicine recommends those ingredients to cure a number of different ailments. In the same way as modern medicines come in syrups, pills, or suppositories with the same ingredients and powder to cure, ancient perfumed medicines also came in different shapes. They could be oil-based and liquid. They could be mixed to an emollient cream. They could also come in a solid form or a powdered form powder form. Frankincense, for example, was used in fumigation, salve position, potions, and pills. It was also part of some oil-based perfumes and unguents. Medicines efficient in liquid forms could be burnt as incense.
All right, so they said they could be oil-based, liquid. They could be mixed with emollient cream. They could also come in solid form, powder form. All right, and it says frankincense could be used as fumigation, salve, potions, and pills. So there's many ways to take the herbs: potion, pill, oil, smoke, any different way you can switch up the herb. All right. So we're just going to go to one more part. So we're going to continue that part next week. But I wanted to get to this part here. We're going to go to cannabis indica speeds up recovery from coronavirus. All right. And we're going to go to this part. And this is from a doctor. He's at the bottom of there. Professor Gershom Zachichek, MD, from Hebrew University of Jerusalem. All right. Now, this is a doctor. You could go look him up. He's on YouTube. He's on all of that. He's been doing a bunch of researches and things, putting out information from a long time, way before coronavirus came out or whatever. So this is not something he's, you know what I mean? That's his whole thing is about cannabis and spreading the information about cannabis. But it just so happens we're in a pandemic and he's researching, he's coming out with this stuff and he's releasing the information that cannabis cures coronavirus, and we're going to see how it can cure coronavirus.
You send me the link? That's dope.
All right, so we're going to go to that.
Cannabis indica speeds up recovery from coronavirus. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, bracket SARS, is a viral respiratory disease caused by the SARS coronavirus, SARS-CoV. As of 2017, there is no cure or protective vaccine for SARS that has been shown to be both safe and effective in humans. Curing coronavirus infection prevents clinical SARS. Cannabis indica speeds up recovery. Recovered individuals do not infect others. Phytocannabinoids are the naturally occurring cannabinoids found in the cannabis plant. Endocannabinoids are substances produced from within the body that activate cannabinoid receptors. Two plants, cannabis sativa and cannabis indica. Their resins contain hundreds of cannabinoids. C. sativa,
Cannabis.
cannabis sativa has also THC cannabinoids or THC. Cannabis indica has also CBD void, cannabinoid void, I guess. Avoid cannabis sativa THC.
All right. So they said avoid cannabis indica cannabis sativa THC. And I'm going to show you why. All right. So
Avoid it.
When you're sick.
Mhm.
Period.
no, what we're dealing with for the SARS respiratory thing, that you're not going to want to take it at that time, and they're showing you which one's better. It's the indica that's better, and I'm going to show you why. All right. So severe acute respiratory syndrome is your body and stuff is racing. Your thing is going fast. It's beating fast. If you were to take sativa now, that would speed it up more. Okay. Indica slows it down. It calms it down. All right.
You can go to sleep.
Yeah.
In the couch. Okay.
So it slows it down. So this is why he's showing you that it's not sativa. He makes sure to let you know it's not sativa, and that time you don't want to take sativa. All right, because it's gonna make your thing start to race up. You're gonna get energized. You're gonna get going. That's not what you want. You're already too far in that. All right, the indica now is slowing down the whole body, the respiratory, and slowing down what's transpired.
Faster than cold, you're stuffed up. That's why your heart's racing, because you got to fight so hard to breathe.
All right, so continue for us.
Unfortunately, extracts of both plants are called medical marijuana.
All right, and saying that because they're not really going to label them. If you go and take it, people are, they're not really showing you which one's which a lot of the times. All right, so if you need it for this particular cause, you have to be very specific that it's indica that you be getting for this. All right, continue.
Since only cannabis indica extracts are not psychoactive, I shall now define what we are after. Cannabis indica resin is antiviral and inhibits cell proliferation. It contains about 60 cannabinoids. It has a higher efficacy than any single compound like THC or CBD. Professor Gershom Zajic, MD, Hebrew University of Jerusalem.
All right, so this is Gershom Zajic, MD, University of Jerusalem. All right, and he came out with this study that showed cannabis indica heals severe acute respiratory syndrome. All right, which your respiratory tract is going
So
kind of
even
fast.
asthma.
Well, it's slowing it down. So this is what is happening in the body and the lungs. Let me go to SARS, see if we can get a. Oh shoot, my next one. See if you can get SARS. A definition of SARS.
Definition of SARS.
Yeah.
I watched this documentary, and they're saying that in the back.
All right, this is the last thing we'll be going into, and then we'll be.
Definition of SARS. Noun, an infectious disease with symptoms including fever and cough, and in some cases progressing to pneumonia and respiratory failure. It is caused by a coronavirus.
All right, so it's caused by a coronavirus. So it's showing you various coronavirus. SARS is one of them. All right.
Origin.
Let's see. I want to get a little more into detail of what it does. Let me see. Yes.
So coronavirus has been for a long, long time.
Well, there's different kinds. Yes,
right.
different strains. Yes.
It just happened last
Yeah.
Yeah, they just keep on remixing it,
Mm-hmm.
the names, so you can't follow the trail.
Just like how they remix the flu shot every year.
Yeah.
Same thing. They're trying to put as much confusion as they can.
All right.
things.
All right, so I'll put this one in. I'll put this inside there. All right. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Let's send this to you. So you can put that in the chat my next one. That's what I'm going to do there.
So,
Yeah, send it to your phone. Text it to you. All right, so we're just going to go into a little understanding on SARS and coronavirus to end it off with that, because it, giving us some great information about the cannabis indica and what it does in slowing the respiratory tract down from the severe breathing, where a lot of people need the respiratory system now to be able to breathe. So we're just going to get some understanding on the coronavirus. Oh shoot, you know what? Damn, it's not that phone. What? You put it in the, sorry, this one.
You put it in your chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat. I'll put it in the WhatsApp first.
Yeah.
I thought it came to your phone, that's why you, but no, this one doesn't have the SIM card in it.
all right.
You can drop that in the chat for now.
All right, causes. SARS is caused by a strain of coronavirus, the same family of viruses that causes the common cold. Previously, these viruses had never been particularly dangerous to humans.
All right, so it shows you. All right, causes. SARS, caused by a strain of coronavirus, the same family of viruses that causes the common cold, as a lot of people have been saying. All right, it's showing you previously these viruses had never been particularly dangerous to humans. All right, these weren't things dangerous to humans. Why? They're blazing herbs in the air. They're purificating. They're doing all of that. And also, we're going to see they weren't constantly killing the good and bad bacteria on their bodies. Therefore, nothing is able to build up immunity and all of that.
And quarantining ourselves, so we don't have sunlight, and not being go out in sunlight and interacting with you know what I mean, the environment, so your immune system gets used to it. But the death rate is still 0.25 that they don't report on. They just report the numbers
How
of the
people
death.
are receiving it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's out of context unless you're given who's dying from it. And still, you know what I mean? They're like, don't die. Yeah, people die every day. That's why I say that, and people look at me like I'm madman. I'm like, it's
Well,
still
people die every day,
0.25.
but because they try to use their head. The scripture says we gotta cater to those who are weaker. All right. So if people are dying, old people are dying, we can't be like, oh, it's only old people. That's not the Christian way to look about it. Be like, all right, we're gonna care to the old people, but it's the whole thing with behind what they're doing and all the deception and
Just
stuff.
come with the number, yeah.
All right. So we're seeing here. All right, that coronavirus wasn't dangerous to people prior. All right. And that's because the practices that they had were preventative and they cured this. Now the practices aren't curing things. They're using alcohol. Now we're going to see that the things change from using alcohol, using herbs and smoke for purification. Now people are using alcohol-based things for purification. All right, so the switcheroo happened. All right.
And the switcheroo is not good.
The switcheroo is not good, no. All right, but we're seeing that this stuff wasn't dangerous to humans. So the most I knew about coronavirus, all of these things from a long time, people were being healed from these. All right, continue for us.
Coronaviruses can, however, cause severe disease in animals, and that's why scientists suspected that the SARS virus might have crossed from animals to humans. It now seems likely that the virus evolved from one or more animal viruses into a new strain.
All right, now that was able to happen because why? The animals aren't able to take in incense.
No one's burning around anywhere.
Yeah.
So the air's
Okay.
not pure anywhere.
All right, so the animals don't have that. So it's easier to pass from the animal now to the humans who are always constantly doing that now.
Yeah, and a good forest fire is not bad then.
All right, no, you need to. All right, yes.
What about now people consuming animals too?
Yeah, consuming the animal.
That could spread the virus.
Oh yes, because now the animal has it. Now they're consuming it. They're eating it. Things of that nature. All right, no, very possible. Well, actually, it's not. It's, most of the time, it's not even spread by the eating of it because when they, it's in the air. It's in the air because the eating, the fire and stuff burns a lot of the bacteria and all of those things out of it.
And it goes into
Yeah.
it goes into your mouth, and your system actually has a way of breaking down these things and putting it out as waste. So that's not the issue.
All right. So we're seeing how it crossed from animals to humans. That's what it was crossing from. Because humans have preventative ways. Animals don't smoke herbs. They don't use incense. So they would have these diseases in high numbers. All right. Continue for us.
How SARS spreads. Most respiratory illnesses, including SARS, spread through droplets that enter the air when someone with the disease coughs, sneezes, or talks. Most experts think SARS spreads mainly through close personal contact, such as caring for someone with SARS. The virus may also be spread on contaminated objects, such as doorknobs, telephones, and elevator buttons.
All right. So that understanding you're going to see, we're going to go into it next week, is coming in with a new understanding, which is germ theory, where now it's moved from, you know what, it's on all of these things. Because germs is around you everywhere. So they needed a way to get you to the medicine that they want to administer to you. So they created now, guess what? Just all the time, there's always these little things around you that you can't see. Families of them. And if you touch one, if you touch this, the germ, you know what I mean?
They started doing a psychological thing on the populace. Remember when they do the black light and they have that joke where the whole wall calling?
No, I don't know. What commercial was that?
Well, it became a thing like
Okay.
on every like
Okay.
a common happening,
Blacklighting.
right?
Mhm.
They do the black light and then it'll be a joke and you see like all the
Yes,
crawling that
Okay.
by you.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Ultraviolet light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ultraviolet,
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
good.
yes.
Yes.
And it's so funny that before this is it that it takes like 15 to 20 years to actually test like a medication or vaccine or something like that. But they say the coronavirus started from last year and they already have a vaccine now. I don't want to push it everyone. Like,
It's only 15
it
days.
makes no sense. So whenever it really is it really gonna help anybody? Or is
It's gonna hurt more than it
hurt
helps.
people
Yeah,
more than
way more than
anything
Yeah,
else?
yeah.
It's gonna do its job. What they want it to do.
These things usually give you short-term relief. All right. So that's what it is.
It's a mind thing.
So these things sometimes are good for a quick short term, but it's not something to feed in and use constantly for the thing.
Or
All
they
right.
have
It's for emergency cases. You go.
They have certain things where they study, okay, how can we put this in the body and time release it? Releases at this time, this
Yeah.
age. Because you want it at this time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's finish up the rest there, and then
Risk factors. In general, people at greatest risk of SARS are those who have had direct close contact with someone who's infected, such as family members and healthcare workers.
all right. We know that going through the stuff, the old understanding was that it was through mingling of the air, people mingling the same air together, air not being purified, body not being purified. But now they have the close contact and everything. We're going to show you that that's coming from the understanding of the new understanding, what they call germ theory. All right. Continue.
Complications. Many people with SARS develop pneumonia, and breathing problems can become so severe that a mechanical respirator is needed. SARS is fatal in some cases, often due to respiratory failure. Other possible complications include heart and liver failure. People older than 60, especially those with underlying conditions such as diabetes or hepatitis, are at the highest risk of serious complications.
All right. So people older than 60, they're higher because, right, they're going to have breathing problems. They're going to be the harder to be able to breathe and things of that nature. All right. Their body is not as strong. All right.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I was just, when the whole thing started and they say that it was affected most elderly homes, I was like, how did these people like got in contact with that they got sick like that, right? A lot of people are arguing, but then for instance, about people who work in the healthcare, right? They could get it from there. So that's really in the older, when the old people home now, you hear that like every day that 5 people died, or 3 people died. So now we know why. It's like if they're the other people working with them know that they're already sick already, so that's how they all died off.
They moved them to like subpar housing too.
So that when they're all together,
You
you know,
don't-
get
you don't-
everything like that.
And venting air from outside into it. You know,
They're all closed up.
right? No fumigation.
No fumigation. So we're seeing how important it took a pandemic and everything to bring everything around. The incense, everything connected to coronavirus, connected to pandemic, connected to the Bible.
Is there a similarity to, okay, because what, before this, the understanding was burn incense to get rid of evil spirits, right? And then it's like, it's kind of the same thing. These bad bacteria, evil spirits,
So
and
the concept of the spirits of demons.
Right, there you go.
And the bacteria they look certain ways and they look like, you know,
They're ugly.
they look like ugly. Yes, they're ugly. Yeah. All right. So yes, wonderful. All right. So we went through a plethora of information showing the history through Christian churches, showing that cannabis, herbs, fumigation, this was the way people understood the world to purify disease. All diseases the old world understood came from the airwaves, came from you inhaling, your body, your pores taking it in, and your respiratory tract and all of that, inhaling all that air. All right. And that the only way to get this inside of you was to internally take different types of herbs, to have aromatic herb and ointments on your parts that are exposed, your body. And this was what people did for colds, anything like that, on their nose, their hands, their feet. They rubbed these places with herbs that smelt good. All right. Aromatic oils and things of that nature. All right. They use a lot of aromatherapy, all of that with incense burning. Everything that you could deal with herbs, pills. It showed every way that the herbs could be used. So some people say, oh, you could eat it, you can do this, you can do that, but you can't smoke it. All right. We went to this today. All right. That it showed you every way the herb could be used. Oil, water base, this base, that base, crushed up. You know what I mean? In every single way. All right. There's no way that you cannot intake this herb. All right. So we're happy that we could bring it out in time of pandemic. All right, the Most High we seen, they used it in the times of pandemic and plagues, and now we have this understanding back, and you know, encouraging everybody, especially because the document said that cold and misty weather, this is the time when the stuff spread. This is why they say cold season is this season. Why? Because it's getting colder now, and the air now is spreading quicker now through the cold air, the breeze, the everything. All right. Yes. So now it's coming upon us. I'm advising everybody to burn more incense. All right, burn incense inside.
Burn it in the house.
Burn inside. All
Burn
right.
inside.
Look up different type of herbs, not just cannabis. All right, there's different types. There's mullein. There's red willow bark. There's different types of herbs. There's rosemary. There's all different types of herbs that you can burn, and that does different type of things for the body, for the mind, outside and inside. All right. So that being said, want to say all praises. Yes.